We're holding by Amar Shmuel, 2 lines from the top of Daf Chof Aleph, Amud Aleph, and we are sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin, the schus of his children, Eli, Orit, and Ora, and for my refuah shalema, Moshe Meir ben Esther Fadel, also sponsored by Eddie Chazan, the refuah shalema for Yedidya ben Penina, Shoshana Bas Penina, and Simone Bas Rachel. We are also sponsored L'Ili Nishmas David ben Chaim, L'Refuah Shalema for Eliyahu Moshe ben Chai Sarah, Yaakov ben Bas Yaleh, and the schus of Avram ben Yom Benish ben Malki Yehudis and family. We welcome in, joining us, I think that might be Mo Kushner, and Menachem Yamansky, Shimon Klein, Hamel Zachter, Shelley Zeitlin, Michael, Yitzi Fuchs, Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishbaum, Barry Cement, Saba, Dr. Black, Yaakov Warman, Chaim Lerner, Ruvain Pollack, Dr. Guy, Dov Solkowitz, Jack Silverman, Yisrael Fisher, Barish Gesserman, Reb Kaniel, Richard Rosenzweig, Moshe Lehman, Nachman Chapler, Daniel Rosenberg, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller. Here in Shul, we have Michal Avram and Ruvain Shanet. So the Gemara now tells us, Amar Shmuel, Hamasaret Bekeli Chayev. If one makes a cut over the dead with a utensil, he's Chayev. Now, the Chiddush of Shmuel is that he's Chayev 2 malchus. One for seret, which is a cut with the hand, and one for loisis goydadu, which is a cut with an instrument, and he's telling you that seret you're also chayiv because that includes with an instrument as well. That's the chiddush over here. Meisvei, srita ugedida achasi. Srita and gedida is the same idea, cutting over the dead. Elashis srita biyad, cutting is with the hand, or gedida b'keli, and gedida is with the utensil. So if you do it with utensil, l'chari you're only chayiv once for doing with utensil. Says the Gemara, no, who d'amak Reb Yaisi? He holds like Reb Yaisi that srita ugedida achasi, srita and gedida is the same, and therefore he's chayiv 2 lavs, one for the same srita and one for the same gedida. Tani Tana coming to Reb Yochanan. Tana taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan, Al-Meis, one who cuts over the dead, in grief over the dead, Bein biyad, bein mikeli chayiv. Whether he does it with his hand or whether he does it with a utensil, he's chayiv. Now this could be according to either one. We don't know. He's not saying how many times he's chayiv, but he's chayiv whether he does it with the hand, whether he does it with utensil. Al avodas kechavim. But if he cuts himself in honor of an idol, biyod chayiv. If he does it with his hand, he's chayiv, because that's the derech. At this point, the Gemara thinks that that's the derech to worship idolatry, to do it manually. B'kli potter. But if he uses a utensil, he's exempt. Says the Gemara, but v'ipchaksiv. It says the opposite. Vayiskoidedu kemishpatam. They cut themselves in honor of their idol, like is the custom. V'charavais uvarimachim, with swords and spears. Ella ema, the opposite. Beyond potter. If he cuts with his hand over idolatry, he's potter, because that's not the way of worship. B'keli chayiv. If he cuts with a utensil, then he's chayiv, because that is the way. And remember, by idolatry, it's critical that you have to do it in the way of the worship of the idol, except for certain things that are considered universal worship, like bowing down or offering the sacrifice. Now, we said by Peyas, v'chayiv ala roish, he's chayiv on the head twice, because he's chayiv for each corner. Machvei Rav Sheish is bein pirkei reisha. As we said, we view the head as 2 parts. The skull connected, the scalp connected to the rest of the skull, and he showed him the 2 extremities, the 2 corners, by the ears. by the beard. There's two destroying the roots of the beard, two on one side, two on the other side, and one below. Machvei Rav Sheshes bein Pirkei Dikna. Rav Sheshes showed the different joints of the beard. There are two major opinions. One is that it's the upper jaw on both sides, the lower jaw on both sides, and the chin. There's another opinion that it's the upper jaw on both sides, the two sides of the mustache, and the chin. Rabbi Eliezer says, if he removes it all at one time, he takes a razor and he cuts it all off at one time, he's only chayiv one malchus, because savar chad lavu, he considers that destroying the beard, the roots of the beard, is one lav, so if he does all 5 points at one time, he's only chayiv one malchus. The Tanna Kama says he's only chayiv if he takes it off with a razor. How do we know this? How do we know that he's only chayiv? Oh, I didn't even see Rabbi Avram Zepkowitz is here with us. It's wonderful to see you. Well, you made my night. Maybe I would have even thought about wearing my Shabbos tikkun begadim in your honor.
You're still telling the rabbi put it on?
And he's only chayiv if he removes it with a razor. Now, how do we know this? Tan Rabbanan. In the parish of the Kahanim, it says that you shouldn't shave your beard. Now, shaving could imply even with scissors. I might think that you're chayiv even if you use scissors. It can't be, it has to be something that goes down deep to the root that's considered a destruction. Well, I might think I might think also if you pull it out with a tweezer or use a planing instrument which goes down to the roots, you should be chayiv. Talmud Leimer, it says lo yigalechu. It has to be a way of shaving. So Hakait said, what kind of normal way of shaving goes down deep to the roots? Giluch sheyesh b'ashchasa heviyomer zetar. That's using a razor. Now, Rabbi Eliezer disagrees. Rabbi Eliezer holds that it's even if you pull it out with the tweezers or use a plain instrument. Rabbi Eliezer, now the Gemara says, okay, it says lo yigalechu by Kahanim. It says lo yisashchus referring to all of Yisrael. Now we join them together and compared one to the other because we learned Gzeira Shava Peya, and therefore we put together the Geluach and the Lo Yisashchus that it says by Kohanim and Yisraelim respectively. So Manav Shach Igamar Gzeira Shava, if he learns the Gzeira Shava Peya, then Liba Yisar, then it should only be with a razor. In other words, a Geluach Sheyesh Bayashchasa. And if he doesn't use a Gzeira Shava, then by Kayin, where it just says Lo Yigalechu, it should be also even with the scissors. Misparayim Namilai says Gemara La'ilam Gama Gzeira Shava. He does use the Gzeira Shava of Peya, but he holds that it is a derech to shave also with tweezers and a planing instrument, because Sabrahani Nami, they also considered shaving. It's also considered a regular way of shaving. Now, the next Mishnah talks about tattoos. Tattoos is a very sad subject for many families, with the children off the derech. When the child goes off the derech, they are exposed to the norms and the pride of the general society. Now, there are people that very much pride themselves in tattoos, and that's considered even a beauty to have tattoos. Tattoo is a lav d'oraisa, it's a serious crime. Now, there is a question. We will learn like the opinion that it's considered a tattoo when a person cuts the skin and then fills the cut with a permanent type of ink. So that's called ksoivis kaka. It's a writing and a cutting, right? Because you need a cut and then fill the cut with ink. That's a tattoo. If it says the Mishnah, hakoisev ksoves kaka, if somebody has a tattoo, that's only if there's both cutting and also filling with ink. Kasav, if there's ink, v'loy kaka, but the skin is not cut. Or kaka, if the skin is not cut, v'loy kasav, but it's not filled with ink. Einoi chayev, at sheyichtoi v'yikakeya, unless you cut and fill it with ink. And what kind of ink? B'dyai, with black ink, or b'chol, with blue dye, or b'kol davishu reishim, or anything that makes a mark. Now, Reb Shimon Yehuda Mishum Reb Shimonaimer, he severely restricts the prohibition of the tattoo. He says it's only if you tattoo the name of an idol. Reb Shimon Yehuda Mishum Reb Shimonaimer ain't a chayiv at sheyichtov sham es Hashem. You only chayiv, and the Gemara will clarify. This means that you only chayiv if you write, it's a tattoo of a name of an idol. Shenemar uchesoves kaka lo yisitnu bachem, because ani am Hashem, I am your God, and you shouldn't put any other name. Amalei Rav Achabrei Rav Ashi. The question is, because it says ani Hashem, maybe the prohibition, according to Reb Shimon Yehuda, is only if he tattoos on himself the words Ani Hashem, I am God. Amalei Rav Achabrei Rav Ashi ad yichtav Ani Hashem mamish. Amalei loy. No, it means Keditani bar kapara einoi chayiv ad sheyichtav shem avodas kechaven. You only chayiv if you tattoo the name of an idol. Shenemar chsoves kaka Ani Hashem. Don't have a tattoo, because Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. Ani Hashem v'loyacha, I and not someone else. So don't tattoo another deity upon your skin. Amar Rav Malkiya, Amar Rav Adabar. Now note, here Malkiya is spelled Yud Aleph. There's also another Rav Malkiyo, Yud Vav. But this is Amar Malkiya, Amar of Adabar Ava, Osaloi lo Adam Shiyitain Efer Mikla al Gabe Makosai. It's forbidden to put the ash of the oven on your wound, because the wound is a cut, and putting the ash there, although you're doing it for medicinal purposes, it looks like you're filling the cut with the ash that makes a mark. It's Maris Ayin. It looks like you're doing a tattoo. Amar Rav Nachman Rav Ika, Shpud Shvachais Vigumais, the three halachic dictums referring to a spit, referring to maidservants, and referring to pores, these are statements made by Rav Malkiyo, the Vav. Belurius, about the chip on one's head, Efer Mikla, our case, of the ash of the oven, Ugvina, and a din about cheese, are Rav Malkiyo. Right? That's consistent with what we said over here, that this din of not filling a cup with the ash of the oven is Rab Malkiya. Rapapa breaks it down differently. Masnisa no masnisa, dictums about a Mishnah and a Brisa, that's Rab Malkiya. Shmaitza, Amaroic dictums, that's Rab Malkiya. And Visimonik, to remember that the Brises are Rab Malkiya. Rab Malkiya with an Aleph is feminine, and Masnisa is feminine. And that's what it says, Masnisa Malkasa. The Brise is a queen, and therefore Rab Malkiya with an Aleph, which is feminine, that's a reminder that his teachings are the Mishnayos and the Brises. My Beinaya, what's the difference between the first one and the second one? The difference is Ike Beinaya Shvachais. Because according to the first version, it was Rab Malkiyo that said the din of the shvachais, of the maidservants. According to the second version, shin shvachais is a din in a brisa, that would be Rab Malkiyo. So ikebenayu shvachais. That's just some Talmudic housekeeping, so to speak, to get the names correct. Rabbi Voi bar Abaya kopit afilu arivda de kusilta. Rabbi Voy bar Abaye was makbid even to put some ash in the puncture of the bloodletter, because again it's a cut and you're filling it up with ash. Rav Ashi says we're not worried about that, because if people see that there's a wound or a puncture of the needle of the bloodletter, the wound proves that it's only because of the wound and medicinal purposes and not for a tattoo. Now, we're going to have to use Barry now to whack him up a bit. Nazir, if Barry said Hareini Nazir, and he's drinking wine the whole day, cup after cup, as Barry is wont to do, he's only chayiv one malchus. But if we keep on giving him hasra, amru loy al tishta, if we keep on warning him, don't drink, and after each warning, he drinks, then chayiv al kalachas v'achas, he's chayiv malchus for every warning. By the end of the day, he's done it 20 times, so we take him out, and, we knock him to pieces. Or, we know that a nazir is not allowed to get contaminated to the dead. If he keeps on going into the cemetery, he's only chayiv once. If we keep on telling him, don't get contaminated, and he keeps on going into the Beis HaKavaris. Now this is although he's already tameh. He can't make himself tammier or tammiest. But the ma'isa is each time he goes back into the Beis HaKvaris, chayiv al kol achas v'achas. He's chayiv malchus for every warning. Similarly, we know a nazir is not allowed to shave. If he shaves the whole day, we tell him don't shave, and he cuts a little bit. Then we tell him again al tegalach, and he cuts a little bit more. And he keeps on shaving. Chayiv al kalachas v'achas, he's chayiv malchus for every warning. Now, hayulavish b'kloyim kalayim. Barry is wearing this. His personal tailor, Savile Row, the best tailor in London, made him a suit full of wool and linen. If he was wearing it the whole day, he's only chayiv once. Amrulay al tilbish. We keep on telling him, don't put it on. And he keeps on taking it off and putting it on again, taking off and putting it on again. Chayiv al kol achas v'achas. The Gemara is going to ask, does he have to take off the whole suit and put it back on, or could he just slip one hand out and put it back in? Or there's going to be a third opinion, he doesn't even have to take it off. If there was time for him to take it off and put it back on, and we warn him, he's chayiv for each time. But either way, Barry is going to be black and blue and have welts for a very long time. A very, very, very long time. We welcome in Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg for our 30th Zoomer of the evening. Very interesting how this is 30 Zoomers of the evening. We have 30 Zoomers here. While we don't have Marshall, we don't have Mark Frankel, we don't have Shalom Fogel, we don't have A.B. Spry. We're missing a lot of people, but 31 Zoomers. Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, a royal welcome to everybody that is here. But we need to get some people back that... I don't know, Barry must have insulted somebody last night. But anyway, the Gemara continues, the Mishnah continues, as Barry would say, the Heilige Mishnah. Now this is something that Barry would do. That Barry is a multitasker. We're going to show you how Barry could do one thing and get 8 malchus, because he is a multitasker. So, Yesh chayresh telem echad, Barry could plow one furrow, v'chayev alav mishum shmoina lavin, and he could get for that one furrow 8 lavin, 8 malchus. Whoa, we're going to zap him. Let's see how we get 8. Hachayreish b'shar v'chamar. First of all, he plows an ox and a donkey together. Now you're not allowed to plow with an ox and donkey together. So that's one beating. Get the whip. Behemu k'doshin. And they're holy. As the Rishonim will explain, both the shar and the chamar are a bechar. Now the shar is a bechar, has kedushas bechar, which you're not allowed to work with. And the chamar, when he didn't redeem it with a sheep, also has kedusha, right? We know chamar is the only tummy dika animal that has kedushas bechar. So you work with both of them. So that's number 2 and number 3. Ukloyim bekarim. When plowing, he covers over the forbidden mixture of wheat and grape, so he's over the lav of working with klai kerem. So that's number 4. Ubeshvias, and it was Shemitah, so he's working on Shemitah. That's number 5. And Yom Tov, and it was on Yom Tov. And Barry is a kayin and a nazir, and he's plowing in the cemetery, Bebeis HaTumah, in the cemetery. So that's number 7 and number 8. Now let's chazir this Ibber. I know that the Olam cannot begin to fathom the dastardly behavior, but let's review it. Number 1, he's plowing together with an ox and a donkey. You're not allowed to work together with an ox and a donkey, so that's number 1. Number 2, the ox was a bechar and has kedusha bechar, and the donkey was a bechar, has kedusha bechar. So he's working with a bechar, you're not allowed to. That's number 2 and number 3. Number 4, he's covering the earth of kloi kerem. So he's working with the forbidden mixture of the vineyard. That's number 4. Number 5, and I know people are aghast, he's working on Shemitah. I didn't know anybody was left in the world that works on Shemitah. That was number 5. Number 6 is that he's working on Yom Tov at Shavuos, and he's out there working, Mamma Mia. And number 7 and 8, he's a kayin and a nazir, both that can't become tameh, and he's working in the Beis HaTumah, in the Beis HaKvaros. That's 8. Hanani ben Chachinai says, you don't know how talented Barry is. Not only is he did those things, but he was also wearing his Seville row suit that was kloyim. So he's wearing kloyim. That's number 9. So says the Gemara, Hanani ben Chachinai af aloyvish kloyim. Says the Gemara, no, we can't count wearing kloyim, because wearing kloyim has nothing to do with plowing. Amalai eina Hashem. That has nothing to do with plowing. So the Gemara says if it has nothing to do with plowing, then a kayin and a nazir in the Beis HaKvaros also has nothing to do with plowing. Amalem afa nazir lo hu Hashem. The nazir and the kayin also has nothing to do with plowing. At least over there we could say that the ground is in the Beis HaKvaros. The suit that he's wearing, that's kloyim, has nothing to do with the ground. Says the Gemara, we said that Barry is chayiv. When we warn him about the shatnez, he's chayiv every time he takes it off and he puts it back on. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Voy, Amar Rabbi Yaisi, Paishet v'loivesh, loivesh mamish. Does he have to take it off and put it back on? Or even if he slips out his hand of one sleeve and puts it back in. So machri ravakabrei ravike iyulei ve'apuke. So there's machlokes in the Rishonim if he showed him putting it on and taking it off, or he showed him putting in the hand and slipping out the hand. Rav Ashi says he doesn't even have to take it off. If we warn him not to wear shatnez, if there's enough time to take it off and put it back on, and he doesn't take it off, so afilu, says Rav Ashi, afilu lo yishal k'dei lishvshayt ulilvaysh, to take it off and put it back on, even though he didn't take it off, but if he waited that amount of time after we warned him again, chayiv is chayiv another malchus. Now, yesh chayrish telem, we have a guy, his name is Barry, who plows one furrow and he gets 8 malchus. Amar Rabbi Hanai, b'chabura nimnu v'gamru, in the group, in the think tank of the Beis Medrash, we voted and decided that if you cover over a forbidden mixture of the vineyard, you get malchus. In other words, we would think that maybe you only get malchus for planting. If you cover it over, that's also considered facilitating the planting, and you're chayav. Amalei and Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Yanai, Lav Mishnah Seinu Izu, isn't that implicit in our Mishnah? It says, Yesh Koresh Telem Echad, that Barry plows one furrow, V'chayiv alav mishum shmeina lavin, and included in that is the lav of Kloi HaKerem, HaKoresh B'shor V'chamar V'emukdoshin, V'kloi B'kerem. Says the Gemara, but he was plowing. Why is he chayiv in Kloi HaKerem? Hai Choresh de Mechayim Mishim Kloyim Eichim Mishkachaslo. So lav de Michsei B'Hadei, isn't it that while it's plowing, it covers the Kloi HaKerem? So we see that covering it with earth is tantamount to planting it. Amalei, so Rabbi Yanai says, you're right. That is pshat in the Mishnah. You'll say, why am I saying something if it's a Ferish Mishnah? If I didn't pick up the shard, mi mishkachas marganisa tusa, would you find the pearl underneath it? In other words, if I didn't tell you this idea that covering Kloi HaKerem is considered like planting it, you wouldn't have made the connection to this Mishnah. It's like they say, they put out a book once of the 80 brilliancies of Bobby Fischer. And they say, what would you do in this case? They give you a game situation, and you have to find the brilliant move. I was able to find almost every brilliant move. But that doesn't make me Bobby Fischer. It's only because they told me there's a very brilliant move over here that I looked and I found it. If I wouldn't have known that there was a brilliant move there, I wouldn't have found it. So that's what he's saying. Now that you picked up the shard, now you could find the pearl underneath it. So Reish Lakish says it's not such a raya. Look, Rabbi Yanai praised you. Rabbi Yanai is a great man. So Amalei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, he loved the kilsach gavra rabba. If not that a great man praised your pshat, I would say that our Mishnah is covering it over, maybe is not planted. But our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Kiva that says that you're chayiv for Kloi HaKerem if you just do an action to keep it. Ilav the kalse gavra rabba hamamina masnisim mani Rabbi Kiva. The Amar hamakayim kloyim loike. That even if you do an action to preserve Kloi HaKerem, a forbidden mixture of vineyard, you're chayiv. In other words, it could be that covering it is not planted. And if you hold you're only chayiv for planting, you wouldn't be chayiv. But this is going according to Rabbi Kiva that if you do an action to preserve the Kloi HaKerem, you're also chayiv. The Tanya, hamanakesh, weeding, v'amechafa b'kloyim loike. If you weed or you cover kloyim, you get malchus. Rabbi Kiva Aimer Afa Mekayim. And the Gemara wants to say that it's all Rabbi Akiva. My time of the Rabbi Kiva. In other words, when it says Rabbi Kiva Aimer Afa Mekayim, this is Kula Rabbi Akiva. And he's explaining why Mechafa is Chayiv, because you're preserving. My time of the Rabbi Kiva, he darshans an interesting thing. It says, you shouldn't plant your field with a mixture of the vineyard and other herbs. What if you do something to maintain it? Talmud Leimer, it says, you shouldn't crossbreed your animals. A forbidden mixture, and sadka loy sizara kloyim. and your field you shouldn't plant kilayim. And we darshan it, we read it, kloyim sod chaloi. In your field you shouldn't maintain kloyim. So according to Rabbi Kiva, it's not that Rabbi Kiva might hold that covering it is considered planting, but he holds that you're chayiv even for maintaining. So the Ana Gemara says, I don't understand. If you hold covering the earth is also planting, so we should give Barry 2 malchus for Yom Tov. One for plowing on Yom Tov, and one for planting on Yom Tov. And he should get 9. 8 is not enough, everybody is saying. Right? 8 is not enough. Dr. Black says, 8 for Barry? That's a pittance of what he deserves. Amalei, Ulul Rav Nachman v'lil kainami mishum zareya b'Yom Tov. He's also planting. If you're telling me covering is tantamount to planting, that's what Rabbi Yanai said. So you should be chayav for plowing and for planting. Amalei, so the Gemara says, Tana v'shayir. You're right. It didn't tell us an exact amount. Some, Barry's back is expendable. So it says 8, but it's really more than 8. Amalei, Tana Ketani Shmaina. The Tana says a number. When it says a number, that means dafka that number. Tana Ketani Shmaina v'at amr Tana v'shayir, and you say that it's leaving over? So the Gemara says, you're right. The Gemara says, by Shabbos you get malchus for every malacha. On Yom Tov you don't get for every malacha. Amar Rava yesh chilik malachas b'Shabbos. There's distinct malachas by Shabbos. Ve'ein chilik malachas b'Yom Tov. There isn't distinct malachas on Yom Tov. You don't get for each. So even though you did plowing and planting, you don't get a separate malchus for each one. Amalei, so he said, no adoteh. Let it be that way. I accept that. Eisvei Abaya, ve'ein chilik malachas b'Yom Tov. You don't get different malachas on Yom Tov. Tanan, this is another time that Barry was a bad boy. Another time. Tanan, in his youth, Barry was, trouble on wheels. So Tanan, hamavashel gid b'cholav. If Barry cooked the gid anasha, the sinew of the thigh bone, in milk on Yom Tiv, the achloi, right? And he ate it. He had insult to injury. He cooked it and he ate it like a chamesh. He gets whacked 5 times. Dr. Block, get the whip out. It gets whacked 5 times. Like mishum oichel gid. You're not allowed to eat the gid anasha. So, that's already, Barry knows that from Bereshis, right? Not allowed to eat the gid anasha. So that's number 1. He's cooking on Yom Tov for no need. This is going according to Beis Shammai, who doesn't hold of hayil. There is an opinion that since it's permitted l'tzarech, it's permitted shalai l'tzarech. But Beis Shammai holds we don't say hayil. So therefore you can't cook what's not needed, and since you can't eat it, it's not needed. So he gets malchus for cooking it on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to cook meat and milk. You're not allowed to even cook. So he cooked meat and milk, so that's number 3. Not only did he eat the good anasha, but he also ate basa b'chalav. So that's number 4. And what's the 5th one? And he's like it because he made a fire. Oh, 1 second. So that's 2 things for cooking on Yom Tov and for making a fire on Yom Tov. But if you hold that there's no chilik malachas on Yom Tov, because you already made him chayiv for cooking on Yom Tov. The chayiv le mishum bishul. Bishulai. Says the you're right. Apikavara. Take out making the fire. V'ayil gid anasha shel nevela. Barry is a really bad boy. Not only was it basa b'chalav, And not only was it Gid Anasha, but it was also not Geschachten. So he's eating Nevela. Says the Gemara, Vatani Reb Chia, Loike Shtayim al Chilasa, 2 for the eating, V'shalosh al Bishulei, and 3 for the cooking. But according to you, it's 3 for the eating. It's eating Basa B'chalav, it's eating Gid Anasha, and it's eating Nevela. The Isa, if it's what we're saying that it's Nevela, then it's Shalosh al Chilasa, it's 3 for the eating, Chuchayev, and only 2 for the cooking, right? Cooking on Yom Tov and cooking Basa B'chalav. Ela ape kavara v'ayil atzei asheira. What happened is Barry used as fuel the wood of idolatry. What a chutzpah. So there it's 3 for the cooking. He cooked on Yom Tov, he cooked Basa B'chalav, and he cooked with fuel of idolatry. V'asharasa mehacha, you're not allowed to benefit, like we're just learning in the Mishnah Yaimis. Well, yidbach biyadcha mu'uma min achayrim. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, then there's another lav, and that is you're not allowed to bring idolatry into your house. So it can't be idolatry. Finally, we get to what actually happened with this scoundrel. It's talking about where he cooked with wood of hektish. You're allowed to burn, you're supposed to burn an idol, but you're not supposed to burn you're supposed to burn an idol, but you're not supposed to burn hektish. The idols you should burn in fire. You shouldn't do that to Hashem your God. That you should not do. And therefore, Barry did 2 with eating, Gid Anasha and Basa B'chalav, and 3 with cooking on Yom Tov, cooking Basa B'chalav, and cooking and burning fuel of hektish, which you're not supposed to burn. Rabbi said we're going to stop over here now, and we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night for the Chumash here. And have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Rabbi Wise, very good. When he was plowing, I get all those, log, whatever. If I'm plowing and they tell me to stop, and I continue plowing, am I going to get 8 and 8 and 8?
Yes. Yes. I have a big future for you. 10 times they did it. You're getting 80 malchus.
Where's Marshall when I need him?
He took off tonight because his back was hurting him.
Oh.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.